Connected to iPhone.
And to be branded an enemy of the crown. Hornet Stark. Brave man, terrible judgment.
Attacking him was stupid. Lannisters don't act like fools. You gonna say something clever?
Firewire.
Go on, say something clever.
Catelyn Stark took my brother.
Why is he still alive?
Tyrion?
Ned Stark.
One of our men interfered. Speared him through the leg before I could finish him.
Why is he still alive?
It wouldn't have been clean.
You spend too much time worrying about what other people think of you.
I could care less what anyone thinks of me.
Yeah, but that's what you want people to think of you.
It's the truth.
Alright, so I've honestly been wanting to watch this show, Game of Thrones. And I'm not sure. Are they talking about a PS5 release date or something? I don't know, man. If they do, I'll probably get it. I ain't even gonna lie. But so I got a Fire Stick so I can watch the Game of Thrones. And so I started, season 1, episode 1, and I got all the way up to episode 6. And then the next fucking episode 7, yo, that shit would not play on my fucking Fire Stick for nothing, yo. I could not get that motherfucker to play. So now, I'm trying to find a way I can watch that shit for free on YouTube. I was getting into that shit too, yo. It's not a bad fucking show, the Game of Thrones.
When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you?
2020?
Of course it bothers me.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep. I suppose I should be grateful that your vanity got in the way of your recklessness. I'm giving you half of our forces, 30,000 men. We'll bring the cattle in Stark's girlhood home and remind her that Lannisters pay their debts.
I didn't realize you placed such a high value on my brother's life.
He's a Lannister. Might be the lowest of the Lannisters, but he's one of us. And every day that he remains a prisoner, the less our name...
I watched... No, The Walking Dead is the only thing I watch. But, yo, what up, Godfather? But, the other day was the last episode for it. Last Sunday was the, last episode for the regular Walking Dead, and then Fear of the Walking Dead rebooted up again. But I'm not a big fan of Fear the Walking Dead. So, watching Game of Thrones now. Spectacular.
commands
Oh, I
respect.
forgot that was up there.
So the Lion does concern himself with the opinions
No,
of...
that's not an opinion, it's a fact. If another house can seize one of our own and hold him captive with impunity, we are no longer a house to be feared. Your mother's dead. Before long I'll be dead. And you. And your brother. And your sister. And all of her children. All of us dead. All of us rotting in the ground. It's the family name that lives on. It's all that lives on. Not your personal glory, not your honor, but family. Do you understand? You're blessed with abilities that few men possess. You're blessed to belong to the most powerful family in the kingdoms. And you're still blessed with youth. And what have you done with these blessings, huh? You've served as a glorified bodyguard for two kings. One a madman, the other a drunk.
I watched the first couple of episodes of Z Nation, and that shit is like a fucking Walking Dead knockoff. So I couldn't really get into that shit. I don't know, Z Nation. That shit really wasn't for me. The lost son of Snoop. Yo, Snoop, I know where your son at. That motherfucker live in Pennsylvania. Ooh, 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 ooh.
The future of our family will be determined in these next few months. We could establish a dynasty that will last 1,000 years. Or we could collapse into nothing, as the Targaryens did. I need you to become the man you were always meant to be. Not next year, not tomorrow. Now.
I'm gonna put y'all up close for a minute. Check out some of his brushwork while I listen to listen to some Game of Thrones.
I have mercy, my lady.
The sound doesn't seem to agree.
I know the truth, Johanna.
Do you, Lord Stark? Is that why you called me here to pose me riddles?
Has he done this before?
Jaime would have killed him. My brother's worth 1,000 of your friend.
Your brother? Or your lover?
Targaryens wed brothers and sisters for 300 years to keep bloodlines pure. You and I are more than brother and sister. We shared a womb. Came into this world together, we belong together.
My son's sewing with him.
Do you love your children?
With all my heart.
No more than I love mine.
And they're all Jaime's.
Thank the gods. In the rare event that Robb leaves his whores for long enough to stumble drunk into my bed, I finish him off in other ways. In the morning, he doesn't remember.
You've always hated him.
Hated him. I worshipped him. Every girl in the Seven Kingdoms dreamed of him, but he was mine by oath. And when I finally saw him on our wedding day in the Sept of Baelor, lean and fierce and black-bearded, it was the happiest moment of my life. And that night he crawled on top of me, stinking of wine, and did what he did, what little he could do.
All right, Firewire.
He whispered in my ear, Lyanna. Your sister was a corpse and I was a living girl, and he loved her more than me.
When the king returns from his hunt, I'll tell him the truth. You must be gone by then. You and your children. I will not have their blood on my hands. Go as far away as you can. With as many men as you can. Because wherever you go, Robert's wrath will follow you.
And what of my wrath, Lord Stark? You should have taken the realm for yourself. Jaime told me about the day King's Landing fell. He was sitting in the Iron Throne and you made him give it up. All you needed to do was climb the steps yourself. Such a sad mistake.
I've made many mistakes in my life. But that wasn't one of them.
Oh, but it was. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, guys, I'm coming. I'm just trying to get this shit set up so I can actually set the phone down. Oh my God. All right, here I go.
No. Is that what they teach you up in the north? And you, wherever you're from, do you have any idea how ridiculous you sound? Either of you understand a thing that I'm saying?
Yes, my lord.
Let's start over, shall we? You be the man, and you be the woman. Well, go ahead. Slowly. You're not fooling them. They just paid you, they know what you are. They know it's all just an act. Your job is to make them forget what they know. And that takes time. You need to ease into it. Go ahead. Ease into it. He's winning you over in spite of yourself. You're starting to like this. He wants to believe you. He's enjoyed his cock since he was old enough to play with it. Why shouldn't you? He knows he's better than other men. He's always known it deep down inside. Now he has proof. He's so good. He's reaching something deep inside of you that no one even knew was there. Overcoming your very nature.
Why don't you join us, my lord?
I'm saving myself for another.
What she doesn't know won't hurt her?
A stupid saying. What we don't know is usually what gets us killed.
She must be very beautiful.
No, not really. Impeccable bloodlines, though.
I do believe my lord in love.
For many years. Most of my life, really. Play with her ass. And she loved me too. I was her little confidant. Her plaything. She could tell me anything, anything at all. She told me about all the horses that she liked, the castle that she wanted to live in, the man that she wanted to marry. A northerner with a jaw like an anvil. So I challenged him to a duel. I mean, why not? I'd read all the stories. The little hero always beats the big villain in all the stories. In the end, she wouldn't even let him kill me. He's just a boy, she said. Please don't hurt him. So, he gave me a nice little scar to remember him by, and off they went.
Is she still married to him?
Oh no, he got himself killed before the wedding. And she ended up with his brother, an even more impressive specimen. She loves him, I'm afraid. And why wouldn't she? I mean, who could compare to him? He's just so... good.
This is a kind of a weird scene.
You know what I learned losing that duel? I learned that I'll never win. Not that way. That's fair.
It all depends. These pieces right here are going pretty fast because there's not a lot of detail in the background, just a bunch of solid colors and negative space. So, you know, each piece is different. It all depends on how big the canvas is and, you know, how much detail needs to go into it.
Now wash yourselves. Both of you are working tonight.
In a minute here, I'm gonna go grab something to drink real quick.
You're a very lucky girl, you know that. Where I come from, we don't show mercy to criminals. Where I come from, if someone like you attacked a little lord, at low tide would lay you on your back on the beach, your hands and feet chained to 4 stakes. See them coming closer and closer. You see death creeping towards you a few inches at a time.
Where's it come from?
The Iron Islands.
They far away?
Never heard of the Iron Islands?
Trust me. You've never heard where I'm from neither.
Trust me, my love. I'm not living in the wilderness anymore. Civilized lands refer to your betters like the Protestants.
What's that?
Lord.
Why?
Why? What do you mean, why? My father is Balon Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands.
What's that got to do with you? If your father's Lord, how can you be Lord too?
I will be Lord after my
So
father.
you're not Lord now?
No, you're having a go at me. That's it.
Just don't understand how you Southerners do things.
I'm not a Southerner.
You're from south of the wall. That makes you a Southerner to me.
You're an impudent little wench, aren't you?
Couldn't say, my lord. I know what impudent means.
Impudent. It means rude. Disrespectful. If you want to lose that chain.
Balon Greyjoy. The lady is our guest.
Thought she was our prisoner.
Are the two mutually exclusive in your experience? Chances are I won't be nearby the next time that happens.
I'm used to worse than him. I'm used to men could chew that boy up and pick their teeth at his bones.
Why did you come here?
Didn't mean to come here. Meant to get much further south than this. As far south as south goes. Before the long night comes.
Why? What are you afraid of?
There's things that sleep in the day and hunt at night.
Owls and shadow cats.
I'm not talking about owls and shadow cats.
The things you speak of. They've been gone for thousands of years.
It wasn't gone, old man. They were sleeping. And they're sleeping now.
I miss girls. Not even talking to them. I never talk to them. Just looking at them, hearing them giggle. Don't you miss girls? Riders. The horn. We have to blow the horn. Nice and low. One blast for a ranger returning. 2 for wildlings. 3
There's no rider.
I gotta go grab a drink real quick.
For centuries, people have speculated over how men and women of the future will look, how they'll act, what abilities we might have, and when we're going to finally develop superpowers. But only recently have we finally begun to understand the conditions required for evolution to take place. And with this knowledge, we can more accurately predict how we'll look in the future. So let's find out when we're getting gills, wings, and laser vision in our video of 7 ways the human race might develop. Number 7. We'll all look Brazilian. As modern transportation becomes even more expensive, our world also becomes more global, allowing for the mixing of even more genetic material between populations. Translation: fancy planes and trains means everyone will get to bang each other. And the more we do this, the less racist the world will become. As genes flow between nations, the world's population will gradually start to develop the same uniform appearance. And we are actually witnessing some of the effects of this today. The recessive genes which cause blue eyes, freckles, and red or blonde hair are being diluted and removed thanks to migration and mixing of different races. It is expected to take around 10,000 years minimum before humans become so alike in appearance race becomes hard to distinguish. But when it does, evolutionary biologists say it's likely we'll take on a mixed race appearance similar to Brazilians. Now, I've seen Brazilians. They're pretty hot, so I for one am all for this. But even though blending the races will end racism, that doesn't mean the world will be perfect. We'll just have to find more creative ways to divide and hate each other. Come on, people. I'm sure we'll figure it out. Number 6. We'll split in two. Not literally, unless you walk face first into a buzzsaw, obviously. There is a popular evolutionary theory which predicts that eventually human beings may split into two races of different species, where one group of genetic superiors with healthy bodies and intelligent minds would come to dominate a group of inferior underclass humans who are dim-witted, ugly, and squat. Kind of like goblins, except in baseball caps and Crocs. Evolutionary theorist Oliver Curry of the London School of Economics says humanity may peak from an evolutionary standpoint at around 3,000 years. And within 100,000 years, humans will break up into these two distinct races thanks to a reliance on technology, which reduces many humans to nothing more than highly domesticated animals. But could this shocking prediction come true much sooner than 100,000 years? As humans begin to learn even more about themselves genetically, it is inevitable people will use this information to pick and choose who they start a family with. Those with access to genetic technologies will inevitably be wealthy and powerful, and it's likely they'll choose only to breed with each other, leaving us genetically inferior slobs to a lifetime of touching our dirty goblin parts while staring at pictures of our sexy brainiac overlords. Number 5. We all go bald. Compared to early humans, people today are practically hairless, aside from Sean Connery, who is like 95% chest hair. Today, our bodies are covered in dormant hair follicles, which would have been active on our ancestors. And it is predicted that we may shed even more of our hair in the future. To predict how or why we might turn into a race of Greg Louganis lookalikes, we need to explore why we lost our hair in the first place. Scientists have speculated over many biological needs that could have caused it, but Nina Jablonski, the professor of anthropology at Penn State, believes it was the specific requirement of cooling down our brains which was the main driving force behind human hair loss. So with global temperatures rising and human hair diminishing, are we now closer than ever to making barbers extinct? We should start a breeding program or something. Number 4, we'll lose a toe. Bad news for people who like to wear a toe ring on their pinky toe, but it is believed likely that eventually humans will lose their 5th and smallest toe. The earliest horses are an example of how this can happen, because before hooves, horses actually had 3 or 4 functional toes, and you can still see the remains of these on the bones above their hoof today. Horses lost their extra toes because they didn't need them. And aside from people who do parkour, neither do we. Early man used their toes for climbing and grappling, but since our magical tree adventures ended, our toes began shrinking to their current size. Now we do actually require these new stubby fellas, especially the big toe, in order to facilitate proper balance and walking. But the pinky toe is basically the Perez Hilton of your foot. It serves no real purpose except to cause humans pain. We smash it into tables, crush it inside our shoes, and eventually, through evolution, the pinky toe will disappear completely. Bye-bye, pinky. We won't miss you. Number 3, big-brained manga aliens. For the past 2.5 million years, human brains have consistently grown larger. And according to genome experts Dr. Alan Kwan and Nikolai Lam, this will continue at least for the next 100,000 years. The pair created a series of images which took previous human evolution into account and paired it with knowledge about how advanced genetic engineering technology might affect us physically. They predict that within 20,000 years, our heads will have grown slightly, with most people looking like Kelsey Grammer with reverse Zika. Then, at 60,000 years, human heads will begin to look noticeably different as our eye areas will also start to expand. Lamb speculates that this will be due to the colonization of solar system planets further from the sun, where low light environments will likely be the norm. Then, at 100,000 years, come the manga eyes, along with extremely bulbous heads and wider nostrils, to make breathing in low oxygen environments easier. However, Kwan and Lamb have stressed that their investigation contains a lot of speculation, and that due to the effects of technology, there's actually a more shocking evolutionary possibility which may come into play. Number 2, we might stop evolving. Because human beings have evolved greatly compared to our humble, gloopy beginnings, it is of course natural to assume that we will continue to develop, but this may not necessarily be true. And it's all thanks to that international orgy we mentioned way back in number 7. In an isolated population, a new genetic trait is easily passed down through generations via crossbreeding, and eventually this mutation becomes established as normal. But with a global population, such as our present one, significant genetic mutations find it much harder to establish themselves. Biological evolution may take far longer to occur, if it even occurs at all. But don't worry, even if we stop evolving biologically, humans will almost certainly still evolve. We'll just have to give it a little helping hand. Number 1, unnatural selection. There is a general consensus amongst evolutionary scientists that the speed at which human beings biologically evolve will be far surpassed by the way we do technology. Why would we need stronger muscles when we have EEG technology on the way, which allows you to move machines and exoskeletons with your mind? What purpose would enhanced eyesight serve if we can use bionic contact lenses like those developed by Tokyo's JEOL company? Why would we need to develop physically in any way at all if nanotechnology reaches a point where we can repair and enhance every area of our body at a cellular level? However, the problem this kind of assisted evolution poses is that humans become frail without the presence of technology. A study by German scientist Alexander Cordial found that humans today are far weaker in terms of...
That's where I work at. I forgot I was using the company cup. But this shit is like aluminum or something on the inside. Man, this shit keeps shit cold as fuck, yo. But this smoothie was so delicious. It was blueberry mango, and I had a bottle of Fever Tree ginger ale. I poured that in there, and then I got 3 or 4 slices of ginger and put that in there. And then I poured some mango kiwi juice in that shit. Yo, that shit was fucking delicious, bro. Alright. Now it's all gone.
The muscular strength and pathogenic resistance than we were in the past, due to our over-reliance on machines and modern medical procedures. So are humans actually in the process of de-evolving? In some ways, yes. And this can be observed by directly walking into any branch of Abercrombie & Fitch. But one way we could reverse this backwards trend is by using genome editing instead of technological enhancements as a means of directly evolving human beings, making genetic adjustments that would normally take thousands or millions of years, but which may now only take 5 minutes. Wow, that sounds really promising, right? If only someone had made a video about that very subject. Oh, look what I found behind your ear, little Timmy. A video on the 7 creepiest possibilities of genome editing. Why don't you settle down and watch while Grandpa takes a load off?
In our recent investigation into the 7 creepiest technologies coming soon, we mentioned the CRISPR system, a genome editing tool developed in 2015 which could have major ramifications for humanity, the animal kingdom, and beyond. Genome editing technology isn't anything new, but the fact that CRISPR is so efficient, cheap, and accurate means we could be about to see this groundbreaking technique used in commercial, agricultural, and what some would say immoral new fields. So let's take a glimpse into the future with our list of the 7 amazing possibilities of genome editing. Number 7, designer babies. If you're overweight, you've got a big nose, or your butt is shaped like a monkey wrench, you probably blame your parents. After all, it was their inferior DNA which created you. But there's not much they could have done to change that, right? Well, soon, all of this could change. Because in February 2016, scientists at the UK Francis Crick Institute were given the green light to begin only the 2nd ever licensed testing of genome editing technology on human embryos. Initially, they'll focus on locating genes which cause miscarriages and fetal defects. But many believe such technologies could lead to a Pandora's box of horrifying designer baby possibilities. How far will humanity go with this technology? Will ginger kids become extinct? Should we be allowed to customize our children before they're born? And if so, how long before MTV greenlights a new series of Pimp My Womb? Actually, we probably shouldn't even worry about this technology affecting you or I, because in the short term, it's only going to be available to one group of people, and they are at number 6, super rich superhumans. When genome editing technology becomes commercially available, there's only one section of society who will be able to afford it at first, the super rich. They'll make their children smarter, more handsome, more athletic, and when the gap grows between ordinary people and these genetically engineered rich kids, we could end up on a path towards a society controlled only by wealthy superhumans, as opposed to the current wealthy, stupid humans. This is a trend we've seen many times before, as no matter which country you live in, it's the rich who can afford the best medical care, who can send their kids to the best schools and colleges, and who can afford to buy political power and influence. Add in the possibility to create almost perfect human specimens, and who knows what unimaginable power these spoiled little ankle biters could wield. If you think the rich kids of Instagram are precocious now, just wait until they're 7-foot-tall super sexy geniuses. Number 5, an end to world hunger. When you talk about genetically modified food, you start conjuring up crazy images of gigantic mutant corn, muscular beefcake cows, and tomatoes that have been specifically engineered to understand the concept of irony. GM food is pretty controversial, but mostly because there's a great deal of uncertainty surrounding the possible after effects of creating super fertile seeds or pest-resistant crops. However, the CRISPR technology could put an end to this, as its targeting abilities mean we can predict with greater accuracy what the effects of genome editing will be. CRISPR has already been used to create more nutritious and resistant soybeans, potatoes, oranges, rice, and wheat, and this is just the start. At the Roslin Institute in Scotland, an experiment to cure pigs of a hemorrhagic virus is currently underway. Researchers are attempting to genetically alter African swine fever by mimicking part of a warthog's genome, as they are immune to the disease. If successful, thousands of farmers across Africa will see an upturn in pig yields and profits. And by eradicating certain animal and crop deficiencies, one by one, we could finally see a world where no one goes to bed hungry, unless they're on a supermodel diet. At 4, the return of eugenics. Between 1907 and 1981, the United States implemented one of the most shocking projects humanity has ever known. The mass sterilization of more than 65,000 individuals to remove their so-called defective DNA from the American gene pool. Some of these people were voluntarily sterilized, but many, such as mental patients, poor people, and both Black and Native American women, were sterilized without their consent. Astonishingly, this barbaric campaign to remove certain undesirables from future society was generally accepted amongst the public. So, when gene editing technology becomes more widespread, who's to say which genetic traits of future society will find equally undesirable? And also, who gets to decide which traits are positive or negative? Ask a homophobic person, and they'll suggest ridding the world of gay people. Ask someone with less of a broken moral compass, and they'll suggest ridding the world of all those homophobic people. How does humanity define what a good human is? And should we even try to define it at all? Number 3, the destruction of creativity. The link between depression and creativity has been studied since the times of ancient Greece, but we still know barely anything about why those with creative minds are so prone to mental illnesses. Major conditions such as schizophrenia, anxiety, and bipolar disorder are seemingly common amongst our most brilliant artists. Charles Dickens, Kurt Cobain, Sylvia Plath, Vincent van Gogh, Beethoven, Ray Charles, Marilyn Monroe, and Pablo Picasso, just some of history's most brilliant creatives who suffered. And it doesn't just affect artsy-fartsy types either. Alexander Graham Bell suffered from dyslexia. Howard Hughes had OCD and a variety of phobias. And Steve Jobs had borderline personality disorder. So is there really a genetic link between genius and mental illness? A study by an Icelandic genetics company called Decode found that creative thinkers were 25% more likely to suffer from a mental disorder. But if genome editing is used to remove these traits, does humanity also lose the brilliant minds and works which accompany them? Number 2, a new world of medicine. When Angelina Jolie made the brave decision to undergo a double mastectomy and have her ovaries removed, she did so because she carries the BRCA1 gene, a gene which dramatically increases your risk of developing cancer in those areas. But with genome editing technology surgery, this may never need to be your only option, as not only can you potentially remove these genes in the womb, they may be editable in grown human beings too. Genetic diseases such as sickle cell anemia, Huntington's disease, and cystic fibrosis could be completely eliminated thanks to genome editing, as could many other conditions with genetics as their root cause, such as heart disease or brittle bones. There's also the fascinating possibility that organ transplants from animals could solve our donor shortages, whereas today animal genomes contain retroviruses which can prove fatal to transplant patients. In 2015, a team of genome scientists managed to eliminate all 62 copies of a retrovirus's DNA within a pig's genome. So in the future, you really could have a heart of a lion and the stomach of a pig. And at number 1, dragons. Kick-ass dragons. Some of the possibilities on this list are a little bleak, so we thought we'd end with something awesome. And there's nothing more awesomer than dragons. An essay in the American Journal of Bioethics authored by bioscience professors from Stanford and Wisconsin speculated that the creation of spectacular and mythical creatures using the CRISPR method was not impossible. They went on to say, basic physics will almost certainly combine with biological constraints to prevent the creation of flying or fire-breathing dragons, but a very large reptile that looks at least somewhat like the European or Asian dragon, perhaps with flappable, if not flyable wings, could be someone's target of opportunity. Gene editing has already been used to remove horns from cows, create cats that don't cause allergies, and make fish glow in the dark. So it's not out of the question that in the future we could have our very own customizable Pokemon. That's what I choose to believe these scientists are saying, and you can't convince me otherwise. But Harvard geneticist George Church has decided to instead take a step in a more realistic direction and also a step back in time, because he is currently using CRISPR to edit an Asian elephant using woolly mammoth genes. And once he's done with that, presumably the next step is here. Did you enjoy our list of the 7 possibilities of genome editing? Or are you now super scared and need somewhere to hide? Well, don't try hiding in any of the places mentioned in our last video, because that covered 7 places on Earth you'll never be able to visit. But while you're waiting for the superhumans and dragons to come find you, why don't you watch it? There are a lot of places human beings are prohibited from visiting, but this only serves to make you want to visit that much more. Some of these locations are off limits because of the secrets they contain, whereas others are restricted for your own personal safety. Let's investigate both in this, our list of 7 places you can't ever visit. Number 7, the site of the Dead Hand. There are probably a lot of places in Russia closed off to the general public, but within the southernmost part of the Ural Mountains, there is a whole town cut off from the rest of the world. Mizgordia is home to around 17,000 people, and many believe it was built in the 1970s to house workers on the secretive nuclear control system known as the Dead Hand. The Dead Hand is the name given to a Russian system which can reportedly launch all of Russia's intercontinental ballistic missiles automatically upon the detection of radioactivity or seismic activity associated with an incoming nuclear attack. And even though this system was developed during the Cold War, there have been reports of major construction activity as recently as the last decade. So, Mizgordia clearly remains active to this day. And whatever it is they're building out there, you can bet your bottom ruble it's not a Build-A-Bear workshop. 6. Snake Island. Remember we said some locations are off limits for your own safety? Well, Snake Island is definitely one of those places. As its name suggests, the island, known locally as Itake Mata Granja, is home to snakes. A lot of snakes. And not friendly ones either, as it contains over 4,000 of some of the world's deadliest species, with some possessing venom which can melt the flesh off your bones. There was once a human-operated lighthouse on the island, but this was eventually automated because of the sheer density of snakes living there, with some estimates claiming as many as 1 every square meter. Located only 18 nautical miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, the Brazilian government has not only banned visitors to this island, but has also employed the Brazilian Navy to patrol the area to enforce the exclusion zone. I think it's safe to say that if an entire fleet of heavily armed ships tells you not to go somewhere, that's a warning you should take very seriously. At 5, the Doomsday Vault. If the secret facility in Mizgordia fires a nuclear weapon which decimates all life on Earth, the first thing humanity will need to do is repopulate. But after the post-apocalyptic love fest, we'll all want a snack. And it's at this point the last humans on Earth will make their way to the Svalbard Seed Vault. The Svalbard Seed Vault is located 800 miles from the North Pole on the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen. And within this mountain vault, there are samples of almost every kind of seed on the planet, donated by various countries and philanthropists from around the world. But even if you've donated whole sacks full of important crops, it's tough to gain access to the vault and its seeds, even if you're a scientist. Mind you, all bets are off if that's the case for GMO Corps. The Svalbard Seed Vault publicly claimed their aim is to preserve crop diversity and ensure humanity has a viable food supply in the event of disaster. But considering the amount of secrecy involved and the vault's financial ties to Monsanto, there may be very good reason outsiders are unwelcome in the Svalbard Seed Vault. 4. North Sentinel Island. In the Bay of Bengal, east of India.
Yeah, North Sentinel Island. That's where them niggas live at. They don't let nobody come to their island. Because if you step on their land, they gonna kill your ass.
Is North Sentinel Island. And unless you want to be responsible for wiping out an entire tribe of people, potentially speared through the face, or arrested by the Indian government, you'd better not plan a trip there anytime soon. Approximately the same size as Manhattan, North Sentinel Island is home to one of the last remaining peoples to remain untouched by modern civilization, the Sentinelese. They have rejected any attempts at contact with the outside world and are known for sending a barrage of arrows towards anyone who tries to say hello. Shipwrecked crews have had to fight for their lives after washing up on the shore of North Sentinel Island, and the last known outsiders to visit were two fishermen whose boat drifted too close. Their boat became their graves. With anywhere between 50 and 400 inhabitants living there, we have no idea about the Sentinelese history, their customs, or what else is hiding on this island. And with a 3-mile exclusion zone currently in place around the island's waters to protect the Sentinelese from our diseases, we're not likely to find out anytime soon. 3. The chapel containing a great treasure. In the small town of Axum in North Ethiopia is the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. And within this church is believed to be one of the world's most sought-after biblical artifacts, the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, Ethiopia said they got that shit, yeah.
The Ark of the Covenant is sadly nothing like the one you've seen in Indiana Jones, because if there truly was an object full of Nazi-hating ghosts who could melt people with lightning, well, you'd expect to have seen some army deploy that by this point. The real Covenant supposedly consists of nothing more than a wooden chest containing 2 stone tablets. Oh, and those 2 stone tablets have the 10 Commandments chiseled into them by the very finger of God. No biggie. The Ethiopian clergy refuses to let anyone into their heavily guarded treasury where they claim the Covenant resides. And the local head must live within the church and never leave its grounds. So, if you do want to know what's contained inside this secretive Ethiopian treasury, you'll have to rejig your resume. At 2, Mount Weather Emergency Ops Center. This is the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center located in Virginia, and it is used as the base for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Ordinary folk like you or I will never be allowed into this facility because its purpose is to act as headquarters for the U.S. top brass when a giant deuce hits a great big fan. Originally built during the Cold War, this is where Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, or Bernie Sanders may run away to hide after they press the big red nuke button. The facility also runs constant simulations of nuclear attacks and how to respond deep underground. How deep? In 1974, Mount Weather was discovered by the public for the first time when an airliner crashed into it. But the facility is so deep, nothing much was damaged. Mount Weather is a fully self-contained facility that includes its own water store, sewage treatment, and power supplies. However, the most shocking information about Mount Weather facility isn't the news that none of us are allowed in when the nukes rain down. It's that there's a specific regulation which declares that even
Did you guys ever watch The 100? Is that where they went to in that show? Mount Weather? Isn't that the same place?
relatives of employees will not be admitted in the event of nuclear apocalypse. Bad news for those playing happy families, not so much for those with an impending divorce. And at number 1, RAF Menwith Hill. RAF Menwith Hill is home to one of the largest and most powerful electronic monitoring stations in the world. If you've ever sent a text message with the words bomb, terrorist, or ISIS in it, you can guarantee these guys have seen it. Located in the county of Yorkshire in the United Kingdom, Menwith Hill is run jointly by the UK government, the Royal Air Force, and the NSA, and is a crucial part of the Echelon spy network, which is used to detect terrorist plots, uncover worldwide drug cartels, and tap the communications of major world leaders. The facility is capable of infiltrating any communication system in the world. And aside from monitoring anyone called Al-Qaeda just to make sure, it has also been reported that commercial espionage and drone operation activities have taken place at Menwith Hill. So, it's no surprise that the public aren't allowed in. In fact, many employees on site aren't allowed to move freely within different areas of the base, with only the RAF commander allowed unrestricted access to the shady goings-ons at Menwith Hill. And there you go. Those were 7 secretive places you aren't ever allowed to visit. I mean, you could try, but you'd probably get murdered by snakes or Russians. Nah, a far better idea is to instead watch some more strange mysteries videos, like this one about the strange everyday things that affect your motivation.
For over 39 years, I was a police officer in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For 15...
If you've spent your whole life searching for the tomb of Genghis Khan, Hitler's mysterious archive, or the secret sex vault belonging to Santa Claus, you'd probably take a peek inside if you found it, right? Well, maybe not. As we're about to discover, there are plenty of good reasons to hold off before delving right into an ancient unopened room. So let's find out why, in our list of 7 unexplored vaults and tombs. In at number 7, a kingpin's cache. If you're obsessed with the Netflix series Narcos, then you'll love our first entry into this list, because it concerns a certain Pablo Emilio Escobar. The infamous Colombian drug lord was shot and killed in 1993 by the Colombian National Police. But during his lifetime, he became one of the 10 richest men in the world, with an estimated worth of $30 billion. When he died, much of this money was tied up in property, illegal product, and companies. But Escobar reportedly had a habit of hiding his fat stacks and forgetting where he put them. It was said he sometimes lost as much as $2 billion a year because of this forgetfulness. But with his huge income, that was just a drop in the ocean. However, the fact still remains that much of Escobar's wealth could still be hiding out somewhere. And one likely place is the vault found underneath his old Miami Beach mansion. During demolition works, a 50-stone vault was discovered 20 years after the property was seized by the U.S. government and sold on to new owners. And this came after another vault had already been uncovered at the mansion the previous year. No reports have been forthcoming about whether either has been opened yet, nor what was inside. But with both safes under 24-hour armed guard, we've got no choice but to wait and see. Number 6. China's first emperor. Qin Shi Huang was the first emperor of a united China, and he was also responsible for unifying many of the country's individual state walls into the Great Wall of China. He was like an old-timey Donald Trump, except with better hair and bigger hands. So when an area believed to house Qin Shi Huang's tomb was discovered inside the emperor's gigantic compound, you'd think archaeologists would want to break right in and take a look at old Bonesy straight away, wouldn't you? And they do, but they can't. The supposed tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains unopened because, along with the countless treasures rumored to reside within, it is suspected that vicious traps line the inside of the emperor's mausoleum. And if that wasn't bad enough, measurements taken at the site indicate it also contains deadly levels of mercury. Furthermore, the Chinese government is wary that modern technology wouldn't allow access to the tomb without destroying its contents, including what remains of the emperor's body. When archaeologists unearthed the famous terracotta warriors, many of them shed their ornate coverings after being exposed to air. So for many reasons, it's wise to take a softly approach with the tomb of China's first emperor. At 5, music from beyond the grave. After his tragic death from an accidental overdose on April 21st, 2016, the relatives of legendary musician Prince grieved for a solid week before smashing open the secret vault at his Paisley Park mansion. Workers used heavy-duty drills to enter the area after Prince took the combination with him to the grave. But several months on, the world is still waiting to hear what fascinating artifacts lay within. However, it's probably going to take some time to fully explore the contents of Prince's vault, as during his lifetime he admitted it contained the master tapes of tracks he'd been recording for decades. Tracks he felt the world wasn't quite ready for. It is estimated the vault contains enough material to release a new album every month for a decade. And in good news for Prince fans, much of this work was recorded in the 80s. You know, before he started to suck. At number 4, The Tomb Within a Tomb. In 1922, the tomb of King Tutankhamun was the most significant archaeological discovery of the time, particularly because it hadn't been looted too much by grave robbers, but mostly because it told us interesting things about King Tut, such as the fact he may have been a ginger kid. But the reason it makes our list is that recent radar scans have shown the tomb's walls are hiding a few secrets, and that previously undiscovered rooms may lie below. Tutankhamun's tomb was suspiciously small to start with, leading many to believe the sudden nature of his death meant someone else's burial site had to be hijacked to accommodate him. The design of both King Tut's famous mask and many of the paintings inside indicate this tomb was intended for a woman, the most likely candidate being the famous Queen Nefertiti, whose remains could lie further down within these secret chambers, and who may have been Tutankhamun's mother, as well as his father's own sister. Archaeologists have long searched for the burial site of Queen Nefertiti, as well as the answers to many questions regarding Tutankhamun's heritage and death. Will these mysterious underground rooms bring us an answer? Only time will tell. Oh, and digging. Lots of digging. 3. The Tomb of the Trillions. India's Padmanabha Swami Temple, also known as the Golden Temple, by people too lazy to pronounce foreign words, is the world's wealthiest place of worship, and also the most baller religious institution in recorded human history. There is an estimated $22 billion worth of treasure stored within the temple's 5 already open vaults, but the reason it makes our list is that there's a 6th vault which is yet to be explored. Unfortunately, this tomb is said to be protected by Lord Ugra Narasimha, an avatar of the god Vishnu, who possesses a human body with the face and claws of a lion. Kinda like Lion-O from Thundercats, except Indian. And a god. The Indian Supreme Court has also banned anyone from entering the tomb, and those who've tried have encountered huge numbers of cobras guarding its entrance. But it may be worth the risk, because it's rumored that the vault contains a throne made of pure gold and diamonds. And one estimate from the 19th century speculates there may be as much as $1 trillion worth of treasure waiting for anyone brave enough to enter. Number 2, a Mexican mystery. The ancient Mesoamerican city of Teotihuacan was established sometime around 100 BC, 30 miles northeast of modern-day Mexico City, and at its height during the first millennium, was home to 125,000 people, making it then the 6th largest city in the world. Yet despite many of their fascinating pyramids still standing today, there are a great deal of unanswered questions about who the Teotihuacan people were, what happened to them, and why their monuments and cities were deliberately destroyed between the 7th and 8th centuries before the Aztecs moved in. The answers to these queries may be found within the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, as in May 2011, researchers discovered a tunnel deep within the temple, along with a possible tomb or ritual chamber located in 2014 at the tunnel's end. At the entrance to these chambers, archaeologists discovered a whole bunch of weird items, including the remains of jaguar, skin fragments, carved shells, and a box of rubber balls. Sounds like the Teotihuacan were a little bit kinky. When the chambers themselves were analyzed, one was found to contain hundreds of mysterious glowing orbs, potentially made of solid gold. And inside another chamber was, can you guess? A buttload of mercury. because ancient leaders sure love them some shiny, shiny poison goop. However, despite this discovery hampering further excavation efforts, the presence of mercury could indicate several significant rulers are buried there, a finding which may finally shed light on what happened to the elusive Teotihuacan civilization. And at number 1, the Time Travel Tomb. Within the boundaries of London's quiet Brompton Cemetery, you'll find the tomb of Hannah Courtroy, a wealthy 18th and 19th century merchant's daughter. She died in 1849, and her tomb has never been opened, which is surprising, as some claim that it contains an actual working time machine. Okay, we're calling horseshit on this already, but that doesn't mean the story of Hannah Courtroy's tomb isn't still interesting. Courtroy was a friend of Egyptologist Joseph Bonomi, and reportedly funded many of his archaeological exploits to the Egyptian pyramids. It was rumored that during his trips he discovered the secret to time travel, an invisible kind of munition shell, and documents detailing ancient Egyptian war tactics, all of which he stored inside her tomb when she died, aged 65. Intriguingly, a strikingly similar structure has been located in Paris's Montmartre Cemetery, leading some to believe that the two tombs form some kind of teleportation device. Joseph Bonomi is thought to have designed Hannah Courtroy's Egyptian-style mausoleum, but the key to it has long been missing. However, in 2015, her great-great-grandson Ray Godson began working with a local enthusiast named Stephen Coates with the aim of having a key to the tomb made. Its listed monument status means kicking the door in isn't an option, especially because it's made of extremely heavy bronze. But whether you believe the crazy teleportation and time travel stories or not, I'm sure I'm not the only one desperate to take a peek inside this dead broad's grave. And that's our list. But if this has piqued your interest in strange locations around the world, why not watch our recent video on 7 Google Earth mysteries and see if you can track down Santa's secret sex vault? It's out there, people. I guarantee it. There are many interesting things to be found on Google Earth, such as the maze made out to look like Oprah, random people in the process of falling over, and that picture of your neighbor stealing panties off your clothesline. But some of the discoveries made on Google Earth are just downright weird, such as the island that never existed, the lost jungle city, and the mysterious locations blurred out around the world. Let's take a look at these freaky findings and more in our list of the 7 strange Google Earth discoveries. Number 7. The Phantom Island. In the late 18th century, a landmass was found near the French territory of New Caledonia by Captain James Cook, when he and his crew discovered an island 24 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. The island was entirely made of sand, so feeling rather uncreative that day, they called it Sandy Island. The island was seen again in 1876 by the whaling ship Velocity, but some other vessels had trouble discovering it, leading to the odd situation that Sandy Island was present on some world maps, but not on others. Curiously, the island did appear on Google Maps in 2009, albeit as a strange collection of missing polygons, so clearly there was something here. And in 2012, a group of Australian researchers decided to find out by investigating the coordinates of the object found by Captain Cook and shown on Google Maps. But upon visiting the area, the research team found absolutely nothing. So what was actually on this mysterious island, and where has it disappeared to today? At 6, the Blood Lake. In 2007, just beyond the city borders of Iraq's Sadr city, Google Earth captured what appears to be an eerie lake of blood. The lake is actually called Lago Vermelho, or Red Lake, and today it appears completely normal when viewed on Google Earth. But nearly a decade ago, many people reported seeing the lake holding a bright red hue. So what could have possibly caused this? Many were quick to point the finger at Professor Photoshop, but there could also be a genuine reason why Lago Vermelho would turn this bright red color. Mineral deposits have been known to create vivid colors in lakes around the world, and other possible causes include sewage, pollution, and water treatment processes. But there's also a gruesome rumor that local slaughterhouses were known to dump animal blood into the local canals. So the Iraqi Lake of Blood may have once been all too real. In at 5, the Gobi Grids. In the northern Chinese territory of the Gobi Desert, several large and mysterious patterns have been found etched into the landscape, and nobody is quite sure what they are and who carved them. Some of the etchings are over 30 kilometers long, with some taking on strange circular patterns and others looking like some sort of surrealistic painting. Due to the secrecy of the Chinese government, it's likely we'll never know their true purpose. However, several military experts have put forward the claim that these patterns are in fact secret military bases, and that these patterns are used for calibrating and testing radars and rocketry. Why not take a trip to China and ask the government yourself, if you don't mind spending the next 100 years in prison? Number 4, the 1,000-foot pentagram. On the southern shore of Kazakhstan's Upper Tobol Reservoir, you can see a mysterious giant pentagram carved into the earth. The pentagram measures 1,200 feet in diameter, and it was later discovered that the lines of the star are actually roads which crisscross a public park. But why was this whole area designed in such a creepy way? Are they hoping to appeal to the goth tourism market? Or is there a more sinister explanation? Some locals have reported that the park in question has long been known as a source of strange occurrences and satanic worship, whereas others believe the site is actually a location of a former Russian defense or space installation. All I'll say is, if you stand at the center of this thing smeared in pig's blood chanting the devil's name, don't be surprised if Lucifer pops by along to say, hi. At 3, the Lost Mayan City. Earlier this year, 15-year-old Canadian schoolboy William Godry took up an interest in tracking down the cities of the ancient Mayan civilization, and knowing how knowledgeable the Mayans were about astronomy, he theorized that they may have chosen the location of their towns and cities based upon star constellations. Using Google Earth, William cross-referenced ancient Mayan star charts with known Mayan city sites on the Yucatan Peninsula, and he found that they exactly matched, except in a constellation of 3 stars, where there were only 2 corresponding cities previously known about. So, by following the coordinates on Google Earth alluded to by the Mayan star charts, this young armchair Indiana Jones tried to find it, and ended up discovering a potentially untouched Mayan settlement known as Acchi, or Mouth of Fire, all by browsing Google Earth. Some archaeologists have poured cold water on William's discovery, claiming to have already searched the area and found nothing of note. But 2 Mexican explorers claim that his findings are truly significant, and if confirmed, it could prove to be the 4th largest Maya city ever found. They have promised to take William with them on their exploration of the area, so let's hope he manages to get permission from his mom to go. At 2, the secret Peruvian pyramid. Close to Peru's famous Nazca Lines in the Cajachi Desert, it has been rumored for years that the remains of ancient pyramids lay somewhere beneath the ground. But since much of this area consists of crop fields, it was always going to be hard to convince local farmers to dig up their land on nothing more than a hunch. It was at this point that a group of Italian archaeologists turned to Google Earth. And by using it, in conjunction with infrared imagery and satellite technology, they discovered the hidden pyramid they had been looking for. The pyramid covers an area of over 9,000 square meters, and as you can see from the images, the underlying pyramid has changed the color of the soil slightly, allowing you to see something the world would have never seen from the ground. The pyramid was indeed found under a local crop farmer's fields, and whilst he was probably annoyed at first, I imagine he's come around a little after finding out he now owns a giant underground pyramid. And at number 1, the discovery of nothing. There are many areas on Google Earth which have been deliberately blocked out by paranoid millionaires, multinational corporations, and military leaders. But one of the most intriguing is this area of land close to the Washington-Oregon border. This is rumored to be the site of America's controversial high-frequency active auroral research program, the secret government organization whose work has been linked to man-made floods, weaponized earthquake machines, and the deliberate triggering of droughts and power outages around the world. HAARP's research into ionospheric enhancement technology is a source of much speculation, but it is known that both the U.S. Air Force and Navy have invested heavily in its work, as have DARPA. Conspiracy theorists claim the experiments in the facility have resulted in the creation of medical conditions such as chronic fatigue and Gulf War syndrome, the downing of several public aircraft around the world, and even the destruction of the Columbia Space Shuttle. However, the Air Force claims that activity at the site ceased in 2014. But if that's true, then why is the area still off limits to Google Earth today? So that's our list of the 7 strangest things found on Google Earth. Did you enjoy that last entry about a place you're not allowed to look at? Well, why not check out our video on the 7 secret places you're not allowed to visit for more frustrating, unsolvable mysteries. Antarctica is a pretty bizarre place. It is home to the coldest region on Earth, but it's also our largest desert. It contains the world's southernmost active volcano, but it throws up crystals. It has exactly the same number of ATMs as it does giant waterfall periods. 1. But what we don't know is what exists at the bottom of Lake Vostok. Who built this weird pyramid? And was there once an ancient civilization of Antarcticans who lived here when it was warmer? Let's find out now as we investigate the mysteries of Antarctica. Starting at number 5. What's in Lake Vostok? Until the year 2012, Antarctica's Lake Vostok was quarantined from the world for 15 million years, thanks to a 4-kilometer layer of surface ice. During this time, many species of flora and fauna lived in isolation within the lake. But then the world got curious, punched a hole through, and took a cheeky look-see. And when we did so in 2015, the Russian team working on Vostok found DNA traces belonging to 10,000 species we've never even heard of. And that is just the start. We think that some very strange creatures may have evolved down at the bottom due to the unique conditions in which they've lived for millions of years. And these organisms may shed light on the kind of life we can expect to find in the ice-capped oceans of Jupiter and Saturn's moons. However, some people are more worried about the threat of ancient viruses and bacteria which may have lain dormant in the lake. But who cares? Because if disaster movies have taught me anything, it's that if a super virus does emerge, Morgan Freeman and some chisel-jawed white dude will somehow save the day. At 4, the mile-long mystery. If you're on Google Earth, you're probably using it either to find your own house or track down some bizarre object no one else has discovered. Many weird structures have been spotted across Antarctica over the past few years, but one of the most intriguing is this 14-mile structure detected 480 kilometers inland from the Leopold and Astrid coast, where a large rectangular mass seems to have been obscured. Whatever it is must be big, because this object was picked up by NASA satellites monitoring gravitational readings in the area. Of course, this anomaly might just be a digital glitch, but that could also be a rather convenient excuse. Number 3, the pyramid. Another famous Antarctic mystery is the Frozen Pyramid, which some people believe to have been constructed by a race of ancient Antarcticans. The pyramid is located within a range called the Ellsworth Mountains, and that fact alone hints as to what it might be, with its strangely uniform structure apparently caused by a freeze-thaw form of erosion. Another odd Antarctic structure detected in January of 2017 is this intriguing oval formation seen in the east. Reportedly measuring 120 meters across, the nature of this structure has not yet been identified, leading some to conclude it must be the work of a long-lost civilization. At 2, ancient Antarcticans. Was Antarctica once a habitable place where a hidden race of humans existed in previously undiscovered cities? You might believe so when you discover Antarctica was once as warm as the California coast. Although bear in mind, this was 50 million years ago, so it's about as relevant as saying, hey, remember when Lindsay Lohan was a talented, attractive actress? And much like Ms. Lohan's septum, we think Antarctica has been covered in ice for a very long time. Longer than humans have existed, with our current estimates pegged at about 15 million years. So it's unlikely that any civilization would have been able to survive here. But that doesn't mean nobody ever visited. And at number 1, when was it discovered? Antarctica was the last region on Earth to be discovered and settled by human beings, with its first recorded sighting attributed to a Russian expedition in 1820 and the first confirmed landing in 1895. However, There is evidence to suggest humans may have reached Antarctica earlier than we previously thought. Ever since the 1st century, educated people, such as the Greek brainiac Ptolemy, had suggested the existence of Antarctica because it would balance out the presence of the Arctic, which we think humans first explored in 320 BC. The land we now know as Antarctica was referred to as Terra Australis on maps and documents, despite the fact it was entirely hypothetical at the time. But when Australia was discovered by Europeans in the 17th century, they gave it the name Terra Australis because nobody thought we'd find another huge continent any further south. Nevertheless, European maps continued to include Terra Australis, although they did rather overestimate its size just a tad. But there's another map which drenches Antarctica in even more mystery. This one drawn by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. He sounds delicious. Reis's world map was made in 1513 and sourced from contemporary Arab and Indian maps and some ancient Greek documents from the 2nd century. Sadly, only 1/3 of it exists today. But it's by far the most intriguing part, because as well as documenting the Central and South American coastline, it also shows a large part of Antarctica too. Curiously, it does not identify the Drake Passage, the 1,000-kilometer gap between the tip of Argentina and the Antarctic Peninsula, but it does show an awareness of a land to the south which isn't too dissimilar to the Antarctica we know today. Is it so inconceivable that South Americans could have made this trip? Were the American explorers of the 19th century beaten to Antarctica by hundreds of years, or even longer? Or are we just jealous because the Russians got to shout first?
Alright guys, I'm gonna get out of here again. So I got the face pretty much squared up. I am gonna come back and mess with the mustache and the nostrils a little bit more. Go add a little bit of details to the hair. And the next thing I'm gonna work on is just the hands, and so I can have all the skin tone done. And then I'll start back working on the article of clothing. So I might be back in here again tonight, but if not, I'll definitely be back here early in the morning. Like I said, just working my way through this piece. Yo, appreciate everybody chilling with me for a little while. What the fuck? I really don't know how I got all this paint on me. But somehow, there it is. It's fucking paint everywhere. Holy shit. Yo, what the fuck? What the fuck, yo? fucking wild. That shit is literally like all over these pants. Y'all don't even want to walk through the house with these motherfuckers on. That shit, that paint gonna get everywhere. Alright, guys. This piece is looking pretty good, though. I'll holler at y'all later on. Peace.